far away. Alien DNA, walking around every day. No one knows it. Even though it looks like it's the future, it's really a long time ago when there were nights and they got into fights using sabers and lights. Even though some things look so familiar, they're not really on that galaxy far, far away. Alien DNA, walking around every day. It's not the future.
Greetings everyone out there on YouTube. Mason has entered the battlefield, and I'm back with another review. This time it's something different. I will be giving my honest review and thoughts on what many people call the worst abomination in Star Wars and television history, the Star Wars Holiday Special. Now, before we begin to take an in-depth look at what I think of this TV special, I do want to tell you this. Please don't execute Order 66
Execute Order 66.
on me regardless of what my thoughts and opinion on this are. I'm being honest and upfront about this piece of Star Wars TV from the late 1970s. Anyway, let's get started. Alright, before you start telling me all of this,
No, 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 no. Hell no, no, no.
and butting out of the video, please hear me out on all of this. Anyway, as far as I know, and from personal experience of seeing it myself on YouTube about a month ago or maybe a few days after it was posted, I had no idea what to expect at first. That is, until after my 1-year break and finally getting to watch it on the big screen at home last year. When I saw those Imperial Star Destroyers chasing the Millennium Falcon again for the first time in over a year, I was hyped. However, before I was brave enough to do it again, I did some research on this, and I was intrigued by all of the feedback it was receiving. Let's start with the good things about this Star Wars TV movie. Number 1. The fact that they had a really awesome cartoon about how the heroes of the rebellion met Boba Fett on the Pana system was a nice inclusion, especially since it was something that Chewbacca's son, Lumpy, loved at the end of it. Number 2. The first of some of the good things I liked from the holiday special, the holographic performance of Light the Sky on Fire by Jefferson Starship was another really amazing inclusion in the show. By the way, that's the only song by Jefferson Starship that I absolutely love, and I love Jefferson Starship. They're like the Beatles of Star Wars. Number 3. The introduction to Life Day. To me, I feel like Life Day is like Thanksgiving and Christmas combined, and I would be very surprised if there would be a mod of something from the Star Wars Holiday Special for the classic edition of Star Wars Battlefront 2. It might not happen, but personally I would like to see. Number 4. The inclusion of the guest stars like Jefferson Starship, B. Arthur, Art Carney, Diane Carroll, and Harvey Korman. I honestly liked how Jefferson Starship was made into the holographic rock band that plays for that one Imperial trooper like about 50 minutes into the film, and Jefferson Starship is amazing. B. Arthur did a great job as Akmina, that bartender from the Mos Eisley Cantina, and I absolutely admire the inclusion of Harvey Korman because of how he played different intergalactic aliens in the film, like Gormanda, that ambidextrous alien chef that serves as an instructor on making that bantha surprise dish for Life Day, the Amorphian in that one video that Lumpy follows when building whatever it was that looked like Legos, and even Krellman, that one humanoid that has that hole in the top of his head where he pours his drinks at the cantina. Now, I did like Diane Carroll's inclusion in this TV special, but I did not like the character she was portraying, and I'll explain that, along with the negative things I didn't like about this TV special. Alright, now that I got the good things out of the way, let's look into the negative things on what I think made the special so bad. Number 1. They used like a total of like 45 to 50 minutes of screen time just for Chewbacca's family. I mean, from time to time, the film would eventually cut to new scenes with some of our familiar stars and the newcomers. What I mean by that is that the Wookiee family ate up almost the entire film in terms of screen time, all the while allowing some of the other characters like Luke Skywalker and R2-D2, Princess Leia and C-3PO, and even Han Solo and Chewie to share the screen time. And it would have been a lot better if everyone had the same amount of screen time instead of having to give a greater portion of it to the Wookiees. Number 2. The character Diane Carroll is portraying. For those who don't know, Diane Carroll's character is Mermea, that holographic fantasy woman that Itchy was watching in his mind evaporator while experiencing virtual reality. Virtual reality actually existed in the 1970s because of Star Wars. Anyway, not only did I dislike how Mermea is being portrayed as a sexual fantasy, but I also dislike the concept of sexual fantasies in entertainment, which never occurs in Star Wars whatsoever. Well, maybe in other pieces of Star Wars like Star Wars Galaxies, but it's still an unnecessary concept to exist in Star Wars. Number 3. Reusing scenes from the original Star Wars. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Some of the scenes from the original Star Wars films, like the Falcon leaving Tatooine and Star Destroyers chasing it, the TIE Fighter attack sequence, and even the Mos Eisley spaceport scenes, were just reused from time to time, which makes this TV special look like it was poorly put together in only a few days, like a school project. No wonder why those reused scenes made it so cheesy. Speaking of cheesy, number 4. A few pointless things were just thrown in there. If you saw that holographic circus performing for Lumpy, which I can see why it was included and is not necessarily a bad thing, Itchy being entertained by only a sexual fantasy and even giving no explanation of what that gift that Son Dan gave Lumpy for Life Day, you'd know what I'm talking about. That made this TV special look like it was just half-assed. Number 5. Not enough screen time for Darth Vader. I mean, come on! Darth Vader is a badass Sith Lord in Star Wars. We saw why he became the Sith Lord we know and love to this day, and we know what happened to him in between episodes 3 and 4 in the expanded universe, as well as the current canon. And we know his fate at the end of Return of the Jedi. Darth Vader is a totally lovable and badass Star Wars character. He deserved more screen time than the amount he had in the original Star Wars. Number 6. The musical aspects thrown in at like 30 minutes in and about 15 minutes before the end of the film. Oh god, I dread that so much. The musical numbers made Frozen sound enjoyable, and I don't even like Frozen that much. And it makes The Lion King sound catchy, and it also makes every Disney movie in existence sound a whole lot better. And it... Sorry about that. Anyway, what I meant to say was, the musical aspect of this TV show was not my forte. The only musical number I sort of liked was Carrie Fisher singing at the end of the film, which turns out to be just the Star Wars main theme that she was singing. Oh yeah, one last thing. Number 6. The music. Normally, I would be a fan of Star Wars music, and I still am, thanks to the man behind it all, John Williams. However, the music for the holiday special was absolutely awful. Just a lot of repeating phrases and alterations of Williams' original score from the original Star Wars movie. I have to admit, Ian Fraser was okay at making the music for this TV special, but like I said, it was just a bunch of butchered alterations and repeating phrases of Williams' work. Alright, whew, I'm glad that's over. Now, let's close this out with my final thoughts. I admit, I found myself in the downward spiral of Star Wars when I watched the Star Wars Holiday Special, but I also didn't really see anything bad about it until now. But in my defense, even though many of you will call it a TV abomination and say how terrible it is, and there may be a few of you out there who actually enjoyed it, I'm just on the border of liked it and hated it. Honestly, it wasn't all that bad. Sure, there were all those pointless things slapped into production and the team was so tight on a budget when making this, and George Lucas's involvement about this was very little, and production on it was very bad. It still leaves behind a piece of Star Wars history. Personally, I would have liked to see the holiday special brought into the canon, but given everything in it that made it look bad but still good at the same time, I'm kind of happy that it's staying in Legends. To be honest, with everything I just mentioned about this special, it makes Caravan of Courage an Ewok adventure. Ewoks, The Battle for Endor, and even The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi look amazing. And those 4 movies are amazing. Better than this made-for-TV movie. But in the end, no matter how you see it, the Star Wars Holiday Special will always be something of the Star Wars Expanded Universe's legacy. That's why my final rating for the Star Wars Holiday Special is a 5 out of 10. I wonder what Nostalgia Critic would say about it. You can also watch the video of Bruce Valanche talking about it. Anyways, thanks for watching and listening to what I had to say about this piece of Star Wars TV. Watch it if you dare. I watched it all the way through a few times and I fear nothing. Funny story. I showed my mom this on Thanksgiving and she ended up butting out like 30 minutes into the movie because she already had the idea of how terrible everyone thinks it is. But anyways, that's my bit on the Star Wars Holiday Special review and my honest thoughts about it. Have a good day, everyone. May the Force be with you. Always.